This is a Fox News alert. Now we got 2 weeks, 2 big states, and from the White House, one very big prediction. Dems rule, Republicans drool. Hi, everybody. Glad to have you. I'm Neil Cavuto. And if Democrats do indeed pull off 2 big wins 2 weeks from tomorrow, do not credit liberals. Now even some Republicans are saying blame Republicans, namely conservative Republicans, challenging Republicans. It is working right now in New Jersey, where polls show that former Republican Chris Daggett is now running as an independent and siphoning votes from Republican Chris Christie. And it is working in New York State, where another Republican, Doug Hoffman, is doing the same thing in a closely watched congressional race and giving the Democratic candidate a boost. But far from dismissing this grand old fight at the grand old party, Jeri Thompson says she welcomes it. Jeri Thompson is co-host of the Fred Thompson Show. Jeri, good to have you.
Good to see you, Neil. Thanks for having me back.
We are seeing, Jeri, more and more of this phenomenon across the country where, let's say, a conservative Republican runs against a traditional Republican or a protesting Republican against the party establishment Republican. And what they end up doing is dividing the votes, and the opposition party waltzes right in. What do you think of that?
Let's take a look at this slightly differently, Neil. This is sort of a Washington way of looking at things. This is a horse race, and I know that's really great for television, and it's great for a lot of the pundits, but for those of us who stand for the principles of the party that we think the party ought to stand for, we want to talk about the substance of the issues. On the New York 23 race, the Doug Hoffman versus Didi Scozafava race, Bill Owen is the Democrat, by the way, of course. You cannot call her an establishment conservative. I was trying to choke back. You're speaking of whether or not the conservatives here are the spoilers. You know, I hope we are the spoilers if we're going to spoil someone like Didi Scozafava's record. For goodness sake, she's anti-life, she's pro-tax, she's pro-stimulus. I'm trying to think of what's good about her.
So let me ask you this, Jeri. Are Republicans, whatever the views, are Republicans spoilers for Republicans? That's what I'm asking.
Okay. If Republicans can't stand for the things that we say that we stand for, fiscal responsibility, strong national security, then I'm not sure that, you know, the point of being a Republican is a good one.
But in that event, would you welcome, Jeri, the Democrat getting in? In other words, is it such an anathema having a Republican share views that are not yours that you would more welcome would you more like the Democrat getting in?
Let's look at it again this way. We're looking at a longer-term argument here. We are facing 2 very, very big tsunamis here. I'm going to quote Senator Judd Gregg today. We are nearing a banana republic situation with our fiscal situation. You cannot answer the coming tsunami of entitlements with more entitlements. And then let's take a look at also the other tenuous situation in Pakistan, a nuclear country by all accounts. It cannot be decoupled from Afghanistan. We have to have leaders in Congress, and that includes Doug Hoffman, and that includes several other across the country that are going to stand for the stand for the conservative principles that we all fought for. You know, I don't do this easily. I came to Washington to work for the Republican National Committee, and it's their job to slate who we think should be out there, and you know, Didi Scozafava just isn't.
All right. Stepping back in the state with which I'm very familiar with a third-party candidate, I'm from New Jersey. The third party right now is making a very credible challenge in that state. A former Republican running as an independent, challenging the status quo and challenging the standard bearer of his party, Chris Christie, by saying that he has abandoned core principles of his party, and the Democratic candidate has abandoned principles of his party. So he's making some great inroads. Would Republicans recognize the value, then, you're saying, in better to lose a race on principle than to win it by compromising it? Am I hearing you right?
It's short-term, long-term, and it is standing on principle to some effect. Now, in New Jersey, it's a slightly different situation. I think you're looking at more of a populist tax revolt. You're looking at a state that's, what, you know, 49th in favorability for small businesses, or probably any business. You're looking at an unemployment that's been revised 4 or 5 times to actually maybe we'll be getting close to the truth. New Jersey is a different situation than some of these others, but I mean, overall, you're looking at conservatives and independents across the country country standing up and saying, well, you don't have any credibility, you don't have any accountability, either party, and we really want people to stand for what we want them to stand for.
No, Jeri, I give credit for, you've stuck to your principles, what have you. I just remember Ronald Reagan running in 1976 against then President Gerald Ford, and there was great temptation among his people and those who avidly support him when he lost by the closest of margins at that convention to run as either an independent candidate or to all but not campaign for Gerry Ford. Two things he refused to do. He said, because he said, I would rather move the party in the conservative direction than leave the party with no direction. I know a lot but a lot of diehards today, Jeri, are doing just the opposite. They would rather risk torpedoing the party than not get their way.
I don't think this is about party anymore, Neil. This is about our country. I mean, we're at two very serious precipices here, and I think that everybody in America is starting to truly wake up and understand that. If the parties cannot answer what our country is calling for, and that is accountability and credibility, and I don't think President Obama has either, and I don't think a lot of these other candidates do either, then we're going to have to shake this up a little bit. And if we're going to lose a short-term race now, guess what? That will probably be a wake-up call.
So in other words, you would
8 months from now.
Right, so you would sacrifice something in the meantime. Let's say the party. I know what you're saying, Jeri. But let's say the party doesn't move in your direction. Would you then abandon the party, start a third party, independent party? What?
Well, I don't think anyone's going to be following Jeri Thompson for any of these movements.
I don't know about that, Jeri. I don't know about that. But I'm saying that I've talked to others who said, yes, Neil, that's exactly what we would do.
I don't know. I don't know if I could answer that, but I will say this about New York 23. Dede Scozzafava 4 weeks ago said she wouldn't sign a tax pledge. She said it was a gimmick. She's raised taxes 190 times. She's pro-stimulus. She was pro-Patterson's budget. Why do we think at this point, because she signs a pledge and then gets Newt Gingrich in exchange for that pledge, apparently, to not raise taxes? Why would we believe her? Why would Democrats believe her? She's pro-unions. She's pro-card check. Why? I mean, I would think at this point the liberals are probably asking if she's going to stay with them.
I understand. Would you prefer the Democrat to her?
I would prefer the conservative, and Doug has a chance to win. I mean,
no, I don't doubt that. I'm just asking. If push came to shove, and you knew that your guy is not looking good, maybe he is in the end, but it came down to one of those two guys or the Democrat.
Are you asking if I lived in New York, would I vote for Dede Scozzafava? I would not. I would not.
Wow. So in that case, you'd prefer the Democrat.
Well, I wouldn't vote for the Democrat either, but it doesn't matter. I don't live in New York. And let's talk about Virginia for a second.
Okay. No, let's not, because that's a whole other can of worms. But I do want to get you back. Seriously, you're a great guest. And is Fred on board with this, Jeri? Is he okay with you?
Yes, actually, Fred endorsed, Fred Pack endorsed. You can go to fredpack.com and contribute to Doug Hoffman, or DougHoffmanForCongress.com. Fred did endorse, and he sends you his best. He's writing a book right now.
All right. Always good having you. Be well.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, Jeri Thompson. This could be the start of something big, my friends.